Greetings, everyone. This is Terry Naturally with another edition of Terry Talks Nutrition. We're here every Saturday, same place, same station, same time. You can join us every weekend. And by the way, if you really like what we're doing and you're getting some good information and you're a good listener, tell your family, friends, and relatives, whoever, to join us. We have a lot of people that enjoy the program. We have a large following for Terry Talks Nutrition. For the website, there's over 300,000 people on our website. For the radio show, we are reaching, all we can track are those that are locally, but we're tracking about 30,000 people, but we can't track them worldwide. And there's a large following in Australia, the UK, and even India. I would never have expected that, but I really enjoyed that we're reaching some people to make some differences. That's what we're all here for. We're all here to enjoy a better quality of life, to live longer, but with a quality of life. Why live longer if you feel like hell? Right? There's no sense to it. You want to feel good. You want to be able to do the things you dreamed to do as you retired or gotten older. Don't ever slow down. I think slowing down or not having a purpose in life is one of the ways to age faster. So we want you here for a long, long time. And if you're anxious about that, well, that's my featured topic today. How to have natural anxiety relief. It can be a lifesaver. Anxiety can kill you over time. All those butterflies, all that, the nausea, the headaches, all the things that happen when you are over anxious and you can't find relief. We'll bring you relief. And what about lung cancer and those that have never smoked? We know that lung cancer is caused by smoking. But there are many people that are getting lung cancer now that have never smoked. What's the relationship? What about dry eyes? Is it one of your problems? Well, it can spike much more in the winter. Dry eyes in the winter can bring relief. Are you stressed at work? Well, I'm going to give you an herb that can help you reduce stress in the workplace. What's in your water? Have you ever thought about that? What chemicals are in your water? Is your tap water safe to drink? It's okay, but I wouldn't call it safe. And then test your knowledge. I'm going to give you a health trivia question. And how can we live without vitamin D? Especially for mental health. And the effects of long COVID on exercise. And we can't ever go without talking about sugar. Let's take a closer look at what sugar does. So this is really important that we learn how to use some of these favorite topics to change our lives. This can actually give us a tremendous effect. So Americans are really anxious. Think of all the things that go on in this world. We're concerned over our children. We're concerned about what's happening in the classroom. We have relationship problems. We have financial problems. They don't kill us outright, but they sure make us very anxious. And anxiety is the most common mental disorder in the world, and especially the United States. More common than depression. It's not a disability. It's actually taking away the quality of our life. And it's no wonder that anti-anxiety drugs like Xanax is the number one psychiatric drug in America. Almost 50 million prescriptions written annually for Xanax. And there are so many natural ways to reduce anxiety. But the side effects of these 50 million prescriptions for the drug Xanax, the more common side effects, drowsiness, dizziness, insomnia, memory problems, poor balance or coordination, slurred speech, trouble concentrating, and irritability. Some of the less common side effects, diarrhea, sweating, headache, nausea, blurred vision, and appetite changes. And it's hard to believe it, but anxiety is also increasing in kids. The U.S. Preventative Service Task Force now recommends that kids as young as 8 years old be screened for anxiety. Well, they're just looking for another way to make money. Now we have a younger population to prescribe medication for. Please think about it. If your child is diagnosed with anxiety and the doctor prescribes a drug, talk to your doctor. Think about it. Is that the right thing to do? Do we want to put kids on drugs so early? Why do they have anxiety? And it's estimated that up to 30% of teens suffer from some form of anxiety, and anxiety traits in kids have almost tripled since 2020. Just 4 years, anxiety has tripled in teens. This world is anxious. Everybody is included. Kids, adults, elderly. Anxious kids have a harder time paying attention in school and may be mistakenly thought to have ADHD and treated with stimulants, with drugs, which makes anxiety even worse. So there is safe relief, naturally safe relief for anxiety. Randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial of 62 healthy adults with high levels of anxiety. Now, I'm going to give you the answer. Half received a unique extract of echinacea, 40 milligrams twice a day, and half received a placebo for 7 days, a 7-day study, because it took effect that quickly, within hours. But why echinacea? And I know I've covered this many times on the show before. Echinacea is often thought about as the herb for cold and flu. And it is. But you know, plants have multiple, in fact, hundreds if not thousands of molecules that affect a variety of conditions in the body. A drug is one molecule. It affects one targeted area, one targeted pathway. Plants, herbs, have hundreds of thousands of molecules that affect a variety of pathways, dozens of pathways. That's why it can work on so many different conditions. Like curcumin, it's a polyphenol that has been found to work on at least 20 different indications, 20 health conditions, because it reaches so many different pathways. Echinacea, the way it works for cold and flu is because it contains polysaccharides, plant compounds that stimulate the immune system. Not over-rev it, not overstimulate it, but it does boost the immune system for cold and flu. Polysaccharides, that's the compound that works on cold and flu. But echinacea also contains compounds called alkaloids. And the alkaloids work on the cannabinoids in the brain to reduce anxiety. So this is a very special form of echinacea, not for cold and flu. And if you have an echinacea in your cupboard at home and you're taking it for cold and flu, especially during the wintertime, that's not going to work on anxiety. It's a different group of compounds, a different group of molecules that work on different indications. But if you have the right echinacea that is standardized for the alkaloids, you just need 40 milligrams up to 80 milligrams twice daily. And this was a study that showed that half received a unique extract of echinacea, very unique, a different compound than for cold and flu. And the other half of the participants received a placebo for 7 days. Now, each participant took a standardized assessment test called the State Trait Anxiety Inventory to measure their levels of anxiety at the beginning and the end of the study. And the results of this study, a very excellent study, the average anxiety score declined by almost 20% by day 7 of the trial for the echinacea group. Now, for the group that got a placebo, they only declined their anxiety by 5%. The echinacea group, containing the alkaloids, also saw twice the reduction in stress levels versus the placebo group. And the best of this, there are side effects with Xanax. There are 0 side effects, 0 adverse effects that were reported while taking echinacea for anxiety, the right kind of echinacea for reducing anxiety. In fact, researchers in Budapest, Hungary, where all this research and development has gone on for many, many years on anxiety, the top researchers in this field say it's okay to use for children over the age of 4. Very, very effective. But not just any echinacea will do. Just because you have it in your cupboard is not the one you're going to use for anxiety. The researchers in Hungary specified a very special, identified, unique echinacea species containing the right type and the right amount of compounds, as I mentioned, alkaloids, and the right dosage to significantly reduce anxiety. Bind to receptor sites, the cannabinoid receptors in the brain. It's a very special area of the brain that regulates. We can regulate anxiety. You may suffer from it, but you can reduce it, and you can manage it. And many people say that it takes the edge off feeling so anxious. When do you get anxious? When you have to get up and give a speech? When someone says, when you come into work tomorrow, the president of the company wants to see you. And you go, whoa, why? And then you're nervous all night. You can't even sleep all night because now you have to report to the president of the company. What does the president of the company want to see me for? And maybe the bank calls you and said, we have a meeting tomorrow. We need to have you come in and sign some papers. Why? Everything that you don't understand and you don't know, you don't have a control over it, makes us anxious. We want to be safe. We don't know what changes can come in to make us anxious. And there are no significant adverse effects reported in multiple trials, clinical trials of echinacea. And the effects can be noticed in hours, especially the first day of use. And the dosage is 40 to 80 milligrams daily. If you are anxious, you have stress, and you lie awake at night because you have so much racing in your mind, you can't sleep. What about this? How am I going to get my finances under control? The bank has called me. They want to see me. The president of the company wants to see me. All these things are going on in your mind all night, and you can't sleep. It's a shock to you. And this product, the right type of echinacea, in the right amounts, which already have been researched clinically to know the right amounts, and it's very safe. Children over the age of 4 can use it. This is a real breakthrough for reducing anxiety. There's more people having anxiety than depression. Now, this is something we have to think about. Lung cancer in those that have never smoked. And it's increasing significantly. Why? Well, one of the biggest problems, air pollution. The number of deaths due to lung cancer has increased by 30% since 2007. 30%. Lung cancer has now become the number one cancer. Even as smoking rates have declined, there's less people smoking today than ever. But lung cancer has increased by 30%. Of course, smoking is the leading cause of lung cancer. The highest increase in lung cancer deaths has been in people who have never smoked. Let me say that. The highest increase in lung cancer deaths has been in people who have never smoked. Air pollution is believed by medical authorities to be a leading cause of lung cancer in those that have never smoked. Researchers believe that tiny particles in dirty air can irritate cells in the lungs, causing inflammation, which then leads to cancerous mutations and tumor formation. Air pollution. So how do you protect your lungs from cancer? There's an herb, or I should call it a tree that grows in the Himalayas, Africa, India, and that region, called Boswellia, frankincense. Boswellia opens airways and is a very specific inhibitor of the 5-lux pathway or enzyme. It's an enzyme that triggers inflammation, causes inflammation, pro-inflammatory compounds in the lungs, triggering more inflammation in the lungs, which leads to cancer. Boswellia. And the 5-lux pathway is different than the COX-2 pathway. The COX-2 pathway produces prostaglandins, causing pain, causing inflammation, and then causing other diseases and also cancer. You might have heard someone say, this drug now inhibits COX-2. And they do. But you can do it really naturally with curcumin. Curcumin will reduce the overexpressed COX-2 pathway or enzyme. But the 5-lux is an enzyme that triggers inflammatory compounds in the lungs. And there is no drug developed yet today that can reduce or inhibit the 5-lux pathway, which produces leukotrienes. It is abbreviated as AKBA. AKBA. Apple, Kathy, boy, apple. AKBA. One of the most powerful compounds in Boswellia. It has been shown to reduce lung cancer cell formation by 30%. AKBA has also been shown to make lung cancer cells more sensitive to treatment and easier to kill by radiation therapy. And it makes the cancer treatment much safer and more effective. Many doctors who do not understand natural medicines, alternative medicines, would object to you for taking boswellia while you were doing radiation therapy or chemotherapy, because they don't understand it. They don't know it. And the problem is probably somewhat true, because not all boswellia is created the same, and not all boswellia is processed the same, and not all boswellia is standardized the same. Drugs, every drug is exactly the same, of the same nature, of the same drug. Herbs can be different. So when you seek out a boswellia product in your health food store, you want to look for one that has been standardized for 10% of the AKBA and less than 5% for the beta-boswellic acids. And then take 500 milligrams of boswellia standardized for those ratios, 10% AKBA and less than 5% of the beta-boswellic acid. Now, from the research I've seen, yes, take 500 milligrams standardized, but several times a day. I would not rely on just one daily. You'll see a lot of bottles of boswellia that say take one daily. But I would take 3 times daily of the 500 milligrams of boswellia. One soft gel 3 times daily. You'll usually find it in a soft gel capsule because it's a resin that's extracted from the bark of the tree. Now, winter is a season for dry eye problems. And during the winter, it spikes. More people have dry eye syndrome than any other condition in terms of their eye care, their eye health. So how do you restore moisture to your eyes? About half of the people with dry eye problems say their symptoms get worse in the winter. Why? Well, dry indoor heating, wind, and time indoors, staring at screens, can all contribute to dry eye problems. Excessive sun without protecting the eyes. But one of the best alternative medicines for moisturizing the eyes and all the other mucous membranes in the body is called sea buckthorn. Sea is S-E-A, like the sea, not like vitamin C. Sea buckthorn oil. It comes from a berry. In fact, the oil in the sea buckthorn does not come from the seed. It comes from the plant. It comes from the fruit. It comes from the berry, in the pulp of the berry. And it has been shown to reduce inflammation in the eyes, increase moisture content of tears, and to prove that it is a very effective method, they did a clinical study of 100 people with dry eyes. 4 capsules daily of sea buckthorn oil significantly relieved dry eye syndrome, or all the other symptoms, including redness and blurring. So the dosage is 500 to 2,000 milligrams a day. That means 1 to 4 capsules daily. It's in a soft gel capsule. But it'll also moisturize your entire body, because sea buckthorn oil moisturizes the mucous membranes, like the inside of the mouth, the intestinal tract, and also the vagina. If you have any dry mucous membranes, and also including the skin. The skin is, if you put your finger in your mouth, it's wet. That's the mucous membrane. Your entire mouth, inside, the cheek, you'll feel the mucous membrane. It's wet, moist. You can have dry mouth. Also, this sea buckthorn oil would also significantly help dry mouth, dry vagina, dry skin. They're all membranes. They're all mucous membranes. The skin is a dry mucous membrane. In the vagina, in the mouth, and other areas, it's wet. You want to re-establish that moisture in the areas of the body. It is extremely effective for all sorts of conditions affecting the mucous membranes in the body, including dry eyes. Some people may need 1 soft gel daily, some may need 2, but the research was done between 1 and 4 capsules daily, or soft gels daily. So don't go away, my friends. I've got a lot more coming up your way. We're going to take a pause here for some commercials that are coming up, and also for the station to identify itself. We'll be right back right here, right after this, here on Terry Talks Nutrition. I'm Terry Naturally. And welcome back, my friends. We're here with Terry Talks Nutrition. I'm Terry Naturally, and we'll be here until the top of the hour. A lot more coming your way, a lot of good ideas to make your life healthier, filled with more vitality, more energy. Get rid of that fogginess, fatigue, lack of energy. You want to feel optimal health. What can you do to get optimal health throughout your life? Well, some of these ideas and concepts, whatever, they will help. So are you stressed at work? Well, here's a good answer. Try Red Ginseng. Red Ginseng has been clinically studied for thousands of years, and it relieves stress. Double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trials of hydroponic. You heard that right. Hydroponic. Mostly ginseng grows under sheds. If you're ever in Wisconsin, Wisconsin is growing more ginseng domestically than any other state in the United States. Ginseng. And usually it has to be grown for 4 to 6 years to be able to get the right quality of the ginsenosides, the active compounds of ginseng. It also grows wild, but there's less and less growing wild than there have ever been. But there are still people out there that hunt for it. But from what I understand, it's illegal to hunt for ginseng if you do not have a permit. And there's a short window of time annually when you can hunt for ginseng. But you can make a lot of money when you do. Ginseng is very highly prized in the Orient. They have used it for thousands of years. And it takes a long time to grow, 4 to 6 years. And they usually do it under sheds. Like it's not 4-sided building. It's like a 2-sided building. And your plants grow underneath the roof of the shed. But because it takes 4 to 6 years to grow, and it's very sensitive to pests and fungus and a variety of conditions that can destroy your ginseng crop, it is sprayed with pesticides over and over and over again. Because if you plant something and it takes 6 years to harvest, you don't want to lose your crop. So they want to try to keep their crop healthy. So here is a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial of hydroponic, the ginseng that grows in water. And what they found was that when they grew it hydroponically in water, of course they fed it, they have given it nutrients, they were able to grow the plant in 1 year instead of 6 years. And the 1 year ginseng crop was equal to 20-year-old wild ginseng. And the older it gets, the more value it is, and the more powerful it is. So like a 20-year-old ginseng would probably sell for thousands of dollars, especially in the Orient. Now this is whole red ginseng. It was a study done with whole red ginseng versus standard white ginseng and a placebo in 50 healthy adults with stressful, mentally demanding office jobs. The participants or subjects completed mental and stress tests in the morning and after a day's work. The result, while taking red ginseng, the participants had significant improvement in their mental health and mental focus. Significant. And made fewer errors on the mental assessment test, results of detectable on the first day of use. You can feel it the first day of use. And additionally, significant reductions in stress levels were seen by day 5 with red ginseng. The average dose per day, if you're taking a good red ginseng, is 200 milligrams daily of the red ginseng, and there were no significant adverse effects reported from the studies. Very safe. Now, what is red ginseng? Why is it red? Both white and red ginseng comes from the same plant. Panax meyer is a species of ginseng. Now, why is one red and one white? All ginseng starts off white. And when they take the white ginseng and they cook it or heat it, from the heat it turns red. But the heat changes the molecular structures of the gissenosides to make it more effective. It's like heating or stir-frying some vegetables. You get more out of the stir-fried vegetables than you do out of raw vegetables. Just because it sounds healthier when you say, I'm eating raw vegetables, you don't get as much out of raw vegetables as you would if you lightly steamed them or lightly sauteed them, because the heat opens up the fiber and you absorb more. And when you heat ginseng, the red ginseng, the red rare noble gissenosides are far, far more effective and more powerful than the white ginseng. So you really want to take the red ginseng, not the white. Now, what about your water? Well, do you have cancer-causing chemicals in your drinking water? I'm pretty sure you do. The Environmental Working Group mapped water quality studies to identify the areas with the highest amount of cancer-causing what is called forever chemicals, PFAS. PFAS. They're called forever chemicals. They never break down. And they're in our water supply. When this data was cross-referenced with cancer rates, they found that the areas with the highest levels of PFAS also had up to 33% higher cancer rates, especially leukemia and brain cancer and soft tissue cancers, as well as thyroid and throat cancers. Our drinking water is contaminated with these chemicals that are in our environment. Who has the worst water in the United States? The highest concentration of chemicals. We're talking only now about these forever chemicals. But there's another chemical too that's been added to water. Fluorides. Fluorides is a chemical that actually, I would call it a drug, not a chemical. They claim it's going to help reduce cavities. Fluorides do not. Fluorine does. Fluorine is a natural mineral that if it was in water would be very helpful. Now, the top 5 worst water supplies were in Brunswick County, North Carolina, Quad Cities, Iowa, Miami, Florida, Bergen County, New Jersey, and Wilmington, North Carolina. The Environmental Working Group suggests installing a quality water filter to help remove contaminants from your water. Water in America is not safe. Actually, it causes cancer. Such a shame that we can't drink quality water. Now we're going to test your knowledge. You ready? Health trivia questions. Can you answer these questions? Someone in America experiences a heart attack about every what? 40 seconds? 2 minutes? 10 minutes? What would you say? The answer is 40 seconds. Someone in America experiences a heart attack about every 40 seconds. About 800,000 Americans have a heart attack every year. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. And everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, every 33 seconds, someone is diagnosed with cancer disease and heart disease. Primarily heart disease, then cancer. But every 33 seconds, someone has heart disease. Now this one might be more easy to answer. What is the largest organ in the human body? The answer is your skin. The skin is our largest organ. It's covering the entire external surface of our bodies. Now internally, what is the largest organ? And that is the liver. The liver is the largest internal organ. The external surface or organ is our skin. Now, you know where the thymus gland is? What is the thymus gland? Is it a bone in the foot? An organ of the body involved in the immune system? Or the source of the thyroid hormones? Well, the answer, the thymus gland is an organ in the chest. It's right below the little hollow in the neck. It makes white blood cells to protect the entire body from infection. It's the most active organ of the immune system. It makes it possible to have the best functioning, optimal level of functioning of the immune system. Now we all experience, as we get older, forgetfulness. Can't concentrate. Can't think straight. Using the ability to make skilled activities. We aren't able to understand learning skills to make it easier for us to live. There is one vitamin that has a huge advantage of reducing dementia. I could say it's probably one of the best vitamins for prevention of dementia and possibly Alzheimer's disease. That is vitamin D. D like dog, especially D3, which protects against dementia. Researchers collected 16 years of data from over 12,000 older adults, including their mental health and whether or not they took supplements. And the result of this 16 years of data, the researchers found a strong connection between reduced risk of dementia and the intake of vitamin D3. You don't want to take D2. It's about half as effective as D3. So you want a full complementary of vitamin D. And the subjects or participants who took a vitamin D supplement had a 40% lower risk of developing dementia. And we could probably spend an hour on the value of vitamin D. Everybody should be on some form of vitamin D, and the best form, of course, is vitamin D3. But all people will need a different level of vitamin D3. Anywhere from maybe 5,000 IUs to as much as 20,000 IUs per day. Some people take 50,000 units of vitamin D3, but only once weekly. But we all need a very, very significant dosage of vitamin D3. It was once obtained very easily by sunshine. As the sun radiated on the skin, it activated the cholesterol. Oh, we need cholesterol. We can't live without it. It's our friend. It activated the cholesterol underneath the skin and developed vitamin D naturally. You can take vitamin D naturally in a supplement, and I definitely would. It makes such a huge difference because we can't rely on the sun. In many areas of the country, there's less sun, especially in the wintertime. And that's why so many people have seasonal depression. It's a season for depression, and vitamin D3 can help in the wintertime. But anytime. But you're more prone because we're not outside in the elements. Especially women. Women overall are at a higher risk of developing dementia than men. Just naturally. But the effects of vitamin D were better as well. Women taking a vitamin D supplement, listen to this, had a 49% reduction and reduced risk of dementia. 49%. You'll think clearer, more concise, less problems with forgetfulness. We were able to learn new learning skills. And 75% of the people who did develop dementia, they were the ones that took no vitamin D daily. 75% of the people who developed dementia, and that could be Alzheimer's disease, took no supplement of vitamin D daily. So the less vitamin D, the greater proportion of the people had dementia. It's not a condition that's, in fact, it's so hard on the families that have someone with dementia or Alzheimer's disease. You know, it's not drugs. It's diet. It's food. It's supplements. We need to have a whole package, a whole lifestyle change. We have to revise the way we are living. We have to revise how we feed our bodies. Our bodies are dependent on nutrition, not on drugs. Yes, drugs can save some lives. There's no doubt. But what we need to maintain a healthy body are vitamins, minerals, polyphenols, and other accessory food factors. We can't just eat garbage, junk food, soft drinks, and all the things that are so commonly bought today, and then expect us to be healthy. And why do we have 3, 4, 5 diseases, and we're on a multiple group of drugs? It's all nutrition, folks. It's all what we eat that feeds our cells to be healthy or unhealthy. Now, what kind and how much vitamin D do you need? Well, D3, and why I want you to take D3, is it's the animal form of vitamin D. And, of course, we're humans, we're animals. Humans are animals too. But D2 is the plant form of vitamin D. And researchers compared supplemental vitamin D3 to D2, or a placebo, in 335 women during 2 consecutive winters. Now, the results of this research study The placebo group saw a 25% decline, dropping in vitamin D levels. Less vitamin D in the blood. Vitamin D2, the plant vitamin, had a 34% increase in vitamin D. Good. Not bad. Vitamin D3 was twice as effective at increasing vitamin D levels. Now, experts recommend 5,000 minimum of IU of vitamin D daily for most people. Now, I believe 5,000 may be too little of vitamin D3. Everybody is different. This is one area I would really ask the doctor, or go to a lab, and there are labs online, there's labs in your community that can take your blood, and determine what level of vitamin D3 you have. And then increase the dosage until you found a very significant amount of vitamin D3 in your blood. Most medical doctors want to see the vitamin D at 30 nanograms per deciliter of blood. Alternative physicians and doctors who have studied vitamin D3 would like to see it at 60 to 80. I've seen some people have their blood tested and they're at 15 or 16. Not even what the doctors want at 30, and far less than what alternative doctors want when it's at 60 to 80. The higher the better. It fights infection. It boosts your immune system. It does so many things to the metabolic function of your body that you can't be without it. But at least try to get 5,000. It'll be some protection for you regardless. But maybe you need 10,000. Maybe you need 20,000. That's all a relatively possibility that you would need more. So we're getting close to our time to leave. It always goes by way, way too fast. But before we go, maybe let me talk a little bit about long COVID on exercise. Long COVID can reduce the ability to exercise. A recent survey of 1,000 people with long COVID found after 2 years after their initial illnesses, 68% of the respondents still had significant symptoms, including fatigue, mental fogginess, breathlessness, anxiety, depression, sleep problems. 35% of the participants said they felt exhausted after exercise and took longer to recover from exercise versus before they had COVID. Testing showed these people had reduced strength, grip strength, which is a way to tell muscle strength, reduced oxygen capacity, scored lower on tests of memory and attention. So how do you get your energy back? We talked about Red Ginseng. We're going to talk about it again. Because in a study by a medical physician, chronic fatigue expert Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, 188 people with chronic fatigue syndrome, which is similar to long COVID, both are considered post-viral syndromes, and they were treated hydroponically with Red Ginseng for 4 weeks. Of the 60% of participants who saw improvements, the results were significant. 67% average boost in energy. 67% boost your energy. 48% average increase in mental clarity. 46% average improvement in restful sleep. And 72% increase in stamina. Now, who doesn't want all that? That sounds like fantastic. Not a drug. You won't have to worry about side effects. I would just not give it to children at too young of an age, maybe 12 or older. And I would probably give them a lesser dose for children, like 100 milligrams per day, and reduces stress as well. Red ginseng is It's one of the best supplements available. But the dosage for adults, 200 to 400 milligrams of red ginseng daily. These subjects, these participants, used a very specific extract of hydroponic red ginseng high in the rare noble ginsenosides. The ginsenosides are the compounds that do all the activity for ginseng. These are the compounds, the chemical compounds of ginseng. And when we talk about chemical compounds, they're chemical, but they're naturally, and they're also natural to the plant. So these are natural chemicals, natural molecules that do all the work. And in this case, red ginseng does a tremendous amount of work. 67% average boost in energy, 48% average increase in mental clarity, 46% average improvement in restful sleep, 72% increase in stamina. Tremendous benefits. And that, my friends, I really am out of time. I am really out of time this time. So I hope you put all these things into somewhat of a fashion for your protocol of what you take as natural supplements with your diet. They'll give you a boost of energy and optimal wellness beyond everything. With that, my friends, say a prayer for this crazy world. God bless you, and God bless this great country.
Thank you for listening to Terry Talks Nutrition Weekly Show. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, including Apple, Google, and iHeartRadio.